Okay, so now I only got like what last two brave soul who will switch their. Okay, Brian just dropped out. Okay, now thank you, Brian, for switching it back on. Okay, so see how engaged Brian is. I would really encourage you to communicate. But anyway, let's look at some of your work. I think I'm still sharing my screen if I'm getting it right. I hope. If not, Sing will let me know that something wrong is happening. Okay, so I'll give a few comments in one of the few things that I've noticed that you might want to be more aware of. So for example, the goal for this very cute drum session, play the drum part throughout the song. I'm not really familiar with this. I just see some videos in YouTube. It looks very fun. But hit the arrows. I know it's kind of like your dance revel, if you're familiar with that. Like, you step on the pad, kind of like that. It's a rhythm game basically. But what I want you to think about is that when you're creating goal, particularly in a broader context like gamification, you might want to think of a big goal and a short-term goal. So short-term goal is correct, like, play the drum throughout the song. But what would happen if I was able to finish the first five songs? Probably after pop music, jazz music will open up, or rock music will open up. What if I finish an entire genre? What will happen next? So is there a difficult level, like, a faster beat that you need to play? So what's the ending of this? So is the end of this meeting the princess of drums, and you play that at the very end with Katy Perry in the background and fireworks at the background? So you need to think of a short-term goal. Yes, playing the drums, finish it till the very end. Similar with your Monopoly, finish one round, keep on like doing that until you earn your salary, and then you move again. So the end of that entire keep on rolling game is that you be the last person who's standing. Let's see that Monopoly. Bringing back to that Monopoly. There's someone who pulled Monopoly. Okay. So similarly, as opposite, like what I told you, earn as much money as possible. But then counter to that, similar to what Brian's team did, think about the shorter one. So what are the episodes? So in Monopoly, one episode is that when you go, everyone goes in that first round. But we know that it's kind of like it's based on the roll of the dice. There are some people who keep on getting 12 or like 11 high numbers and keep on like just keep on earning a lot of things. That's luck in some sense. But if you think through it, is there some episodes of that game? Because if you notice, a lot of this, if you don't control the rules of that, is that you will notice that in Monopoly, a lot of people are really left behind. When you're the last player who rolls the dice and everyone already, like in the first street, the brown and blue are already, the light blue are already occupied, wow, it's really hard to come back. So you have to think of that when you're like doing the game. And that is what we're going to focus on the next part. So we all know that there are game attributes. And the next thing is that there are several things called mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. So I'll be giving you this and some motivational factors, which is more educational, and hopefully you can incorporate it. So we will be using Monopoly as our classic one, so we all know that. And you know that mechanics, so you know that the attribute is the rule, but mechanics is how you would want to control your behavior of your players. So in that drums, if you miss the bit, you're out. In It Takes Two, if you don't work together as a team, you cannot finish the game. So you control basically what will happen in the game. You're like the game master. You're like this big brother who will control everyone. So that is kind of your role in mechanics. How would everyone be playing this out? Dynamics is that as they play the game, either by self or with another person, how are these things that they interact with would enhance or would reduce their overall game experience. If you're into World of Warcraft, okay, nerfing and buffing is common terms. That's mechanics. We nerf a character because this character is so poor for the past few seasons. let's give him a shot. Like, oh no, buffing. Sorry, you nerf one because that character has been so gang that you want to just like reduce it to zero. So that's your mechanics. But dynamics is that okay, this person can heal a particular team member. This person is good at attack. That person, that character is good at like planting things. Then as a team, you come up, you move forward. So that is more of your collaborative game, right? So you would see a lot of this dynamics, even in a single person game, Tetris. There is actually some form of dynamics there. So like they will try to drop in some things, and then your behavior of left and right would really depend on how you would form it. There are some people who will keep on stacking it first, and then until you get that one last line in Tetris, you shoot it in, and then that would clear an entire base. There are some people who are like that, and then there are some people who will like try to keep it as low as possible. So this is dynamics. So basically the rules of game over time. And then eventually you will make it faster and faster and faster and faster until game over. So that's your dynamics. Finally, aesthetics. Aesthetics is what draws us in. And a lot of this big feature game nowadays, like Cyberpunk is a perfect example. They put Keanu Reeves to excite everyone, and then when they got it at the first day release, everyone was so mad because the game was so. It was. I think it's getting better now. I heard. So let's not. I will not dive deep into that Cyberpunk fiasco, but if you're familiar with that, they put Keanu Reeves. I got very excited. I got the game. I was so disappointed at the very beginning. Do I play it now? Not really. So that's aesthetics. Aesthetic is how you would encourage people. You put a good story. It's not just about like the Hong Kong government would want Hong Kong society would be carbon neutral by 2030. Come on, make it much more exciting. Can I put some like some aliens and some stuff or some like laser beams and stuff that things that would really or make it really serious that after 2030 if we didn't do this it's the end of the world kind of thing. Can I do that like end of the world scenario for sustainability? Don't do this, we all die kind of thing. So make it something a little bit more dramatic, or probably make it much more exciting by putting a lot more things inside. So aesthetics is one. But why I'm telling you that is because as a player, if you look closely, as a player, you would actually be drawn more to aesthetics rather than the rules of the game. This is typical. You will always have this one player who doesn't want to read the rules of the game. And then there's one player who have to explain everything. This is how you play a game. Okay, and then okay. So, but most of the player are drawn by aesthetics. That's given. And then dynamics is somewhere in between, right? So, but as a designer, you would start to think about rules, how to play, and then experiences less. That's why game prototyping is very important. You need to play it as well for you to experience. And then you will go back again to rules. So proposal is not enough. Try to think of like asking yourself within the proposal, what if this happens? What if, let's say, a tsunami hits somewhere and then it goes back to Hong Kong? What should we do? Or water consumption. What if, let's say, let's just look at what happening to Ukraine. What if they were cut off of power supply? You're forced to spend more carbon at the end of the day. So these are the things that you need to think about, and what will be the overall experience. Okay. Finally, this is the but wait, there's more kind of thing. It's not just about that game in general that you need to think, because again, like what I mentioned, goal has two things: your game goals and the other one is the educational goals. And this is where the motivation would come in. What motivates students or what motivates people to really like do what they want, what we want them to do? Again, at the end of the day, the things that we're going to pick are not the sexy topics that you can get in the world. Like, sustainability, yes, it is very important, but, engaging people like, let's be more sustainable. Let's buy plant-based products. It's kind of really hard up until this point. there are already a good amount of it, good amount of effort coming in, but again, bringing everyone to the fold is a challenge. So motivational elements, I would just briefly go into this for you to like think through it, because one, again, I've mentioned this, a game would never be a game or anything that you would want people to do if there is no goal. In life, you always have to set goals at some point in time. I know some of us will be living YOLO, but you still need to set goals. You have to accept that. That's what we call adulting. Access is the next one. What are the things that I can use? Okay, so carbon emission, can I do this? Can I do that? What are the beginning? In Monopoly, that's your money. That's your access. What can I buy with this amount? What is my starting position here? So you need to give them multiple pathways to move around. Usually in the experience that I did with my gamification experience is that we put some badges in it, leaderboard, we did that with our team. Okay? And then next is that feedback. This is very important as well, because let's say you move 3 dice. Do you need to pay rent? Do you need to collect the money there? Or do you need to fight a monster somewhere if you move to the left or go to the right? If you choose this option, what will happen to you? So there should be some form of feedback. If no feedback, then how will they know they're even playing the game? Right? Challenges, we've been mentioning this a couple of times. Don't forget the easy, average, and difficult task. So there are some opportunities for them to actually work on. And this is where you could incorporate all those like theories or all those like lessons that you would want to embed or hide in your game proposal. And then collaboration. This one is a little bit half-half. It really depends on the type of game you're building. If it is a single person type of game, then collaboration, of course, would not be, at most of the collaboration probably is like, you just ask your friend somewhere and then, ask a friend on help you answering some questions. But if you could embed collaboration, then that would be even better. But again, once you add collaboration, your mechanics will also change. A single player game like Tetris is different from a multiplayer game like Monopoly. The dynamics are very different. The much more complex it is. And finally, fantasy is what they also, it's tied in with your aesthetics. So how beautiful your character is, what are the types of things that I could get out of my character, what is the storyline, are we saving a princess here? Are we going to end the world war? Are we going to kill a big monster in the end? Or should you be the top of the blacklist in this racing competition? That would be the story that you have to make. Every game that you could play, at least majority of it, would have a story that you need to follow. Again, just look at this. I bet only a few of the images that you see here would have no story or little story at all. Okay? So, those are your game elements. And now I would leave the last 5 minutes. Okay, so there should be a last activity in the end. But as a group, okay, this one you could leave it. I would leave the Miro board open for you to work on it as a group. Once you decided your group, I will leave this board open. You could come back again and check it. And then you could start, if you want, you could start thinking about your proposal and think about the rules, goals, rewards, and challenges, and how you could embed those motivational factors. What are the access, feedback, the form of feedback they would get, and then what will be your mechanics, the dynamics of how they will play it, and the aesthetics, the story that you would want to build. So try to incorporate that. Now, if in case you are lost and you've already forgotten all about these things, I just added the criteria. Thank you, Michael, for giving me this image. So you could have the criteria. And this is, by the way, the slides for today. You could, browse it as many as you want. And just in case you're wondering, what are those videos that I keep on mentioning for the past few hours, is that it's basically this three. So the sustainable energy, the use of that energy and water by Edmund Lau, and then the twine story by our very own adjunct assistant professor. Okay. Now, any question from the floor? We have 5 minutes. And I'm really serious about the Starbucks coffee. I think it was Brian who answered that, right? Was it Brian who answered it?
Yeah,
Right?
but since I'm not in Hong Kong, so I think I couldn't
Okay.
get
But
that.
don't worry, if you're in Hong Kong, for sure they will be calling, crossing finger. Again, let's not say anymore. Like, if the COVID thing is better, then yeah, feel free to come back. Okay, now, any question from the floor?
Seems there's one question from laughing. He asked, "Do you play PS5?" on the
Oh,
chat.
sorry?
There's one question from the chat.
Oh, do you play PS5 and which game do you like the most? PS5. Okay. So what happened is that I've been waiting for that list. There are at least 7 calls by at least 3 by Sony, 1 by Fortress, and Sunning.
Uh,
I keep on signing up.
right.
I didn't get it, but I told myself I will not buy from this yellow. Is it yellow cow? Do they call it yellow
Yep.
cow? Yep.
Yellow cow.
Those hustlers out there, I would never buy. So I haven't. I haven't got. If you have some information of like retail price, again, Yukyong, please let me know. I would love to buy one. In the end, I got Xbox Series S. Yes. And what game do I play? It's really funny. I installed a uh, Command and Conquer Generals Tiberium War, mainly because it's a 90s game that I am very much attached with. I learned how to build computers because of games. If you are familiar with computer building, if for those CS people, you try to switch off the overclock. I'm not sure if you've done that with your PC. Try it one time. If you want your PC to be burned faster, but performance improve, you remove the clock. You overclock your what do you call that? Your CPU. But guaranteed in 1 month it will die, and then you have to replace it with a new one. So yes, I've been doing that. So there are a couple of things, but yes, the one that I will be playing are the old ones. Need for Speed is it's a common in my console. Yes, the classic Underground. I couldn't get it anymore, unfortunately. So yes, I'm a classic player. Mario is something in my pocket as well. I love playing the very old 2D Mario. Odyssey is very nice because it combines, the old Mario and the new Mario. If you've tried, if I think you're a Switch person, right? Yukyong? From that, yeah. Odyssey is a good one. Any other question about games? Yes. Other questions? Is there any advice that you want to give us on the type of games to build, like digital or physical ones? For scalability, since we're talking about let's game how you could win this brand, right? Okay, so 10% is the practicality. So if you're thinking about practicality, I haven't read the rules and regulation, by the way. Don't take it with a pinch of salt, okay? You ask Michael and Sing, they know better. Practicality, I will go for analog one. Physical. Mainly because practicality wise, it's easy to produce unless the winning price is you're playing around 250,000, then probably you could hire with 250,000. It's even hard to hire you could hire a graphics designer, but you also need an integrator, the one who will build the app if you're going digital. But you can also be clever in digital because Twine is free. So you could do something like that, like Twine, so which is digital, and then you just hire a graphic artist with around that money. So you could think through that. So, but if you are just like a single person and in a small budget, of course, the most practical is physical. Universality is you have to think of two things. There are two types of stories that you could play. One is that the story that is really embedded in the topic, the one that can be spread out or can be used with others. For example, the Mario game. At the end, save the princess. start playing with something, right? But if my quizzes or the activities that they need to do inside can be replaced with another topic, let's say, use of water, you could put that in, or carbon emission, you could replace that. So you could do that and still save the princess by using carbon emission, or save the princess by spending less water. You could do something like that, but it's not as creative, 30% creative and fun. The most creative is that if your story is really built into the game. That's the challenge there. Now, achievability, design the game, address. This goes down to your goals, educational goals and game goals. Okay? Any tips in making the game how to follow educational goals? You just need to ask yourself what you want your students to achieve at the end of the day. Do you want them to consume less water? If yes, what are the steps to consume less water? So those are the parts of your story. Chapter 1, how to choose between bottled water and tap water. Chapter 2, how to choose an energy efficient refrigerator or appliances. Chapter 3, they go through that, and then you put that in a story. Like one day, Donn wake up, grab a drink of water, and then he goes to Fortress, and he was about to buy his new flat. Something. What will you do? Yeah. So you think of the educational goal first, and then how can you achieve it with the game by playing it is the next question. Okay, so that's how you would do it. From what I heard, Monopoly used to be a game that alerted people on the issues of Monopoly, but nowadays I wish Monopoly just True. This is true. Actually, if you really look at the history of Monopoly, there's two things. There's two ways for you to play Monopoly. One is for you to be monopolistic in thinking, and one is for everyone in the community to really be rich. But when Parker Brothers took over Monopoly, they removed that one and they just retained the business type of monopolistic thinking. But yes, it is actually thinking of the better good. That was the original design of Monopoly. Does longer playing time better engagement in general? The answer is unfortunately not really. It doesn't mean that the longer you spend, the better it is. There are two, in terms of like playing time, there are two types of that. One, you play it in, there's like those quick games. For example, you think about your you can think about your Monopoly, the cards one. What do you call that? Monopoly. What do you call that trading card in Monopoly?
Deal.
Deal. Yes. Thank you, Jasmine. Yes, Deal. In Deal, you could actually play it in like under 15-30 minutes. So you could do something in that and still achieve the same educational goal. And there's a game goal. But if you play the Monopoly, there is a Monopoly, actually a short version of Monopoly. Instead of you killing each other, right? Once everyone was able to go around like 5 rounds, whoever is the richest wins the game. That's another possibility, because dragging it might be too much. But you also need to think for the really long ones. You start thinking about Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is a long game. If there's a way for you to save it because you're thinking digital, is there a save function there? If you could save the game and then do it for a later round, it's okay. And that's another way for you to do that. So engagement is not really equates straight away with playing time. So again, it depends on your goal and the mechanics and the dynamics of the game. Short games can be very fun. We can just start playing flipping coins, or like your bar dice. Have you tried that dice that you need to play and then you drink? Sorry, I should not be teaching this, but yes, there is those games. Those are very quick, because if you play it long time, you'll get drunk for sure and you cannot go home. So that is not a good advice. Now, how to play a game? How to make people want to keep on playing the game, like for a year? You should be thinking about Dungeons and Dragons. If you have played Dungeons and Dragons, I think the longest that I've heard is like a couple of years to finish it. But you have to think. So most likely, if you're thinking of playing a year, this will become digital nowadays, because Hong Kong spaces are too small. You cannot set up a a board game and leave it there for an entire year. You just cannot do that. But if you want to keep people keep on like coming back, I would ask Joe to start thinking about monetizing it. I will give you a very simple, quick, and easy game. Pokemon Go. Is it Pokemon Go? Or no, is it Pokemon? The one that you keep on like catching things. You walk around and you catch things. That was a hit. The Niantic one. That you can play for an entire year. If you're tired today, you just come back 5 months later, and then you start playing it again. So how to make them keep on coming back? They are collecting things. Gotta catch them all, Pokemon, right? At the end of the day, you gotta catch them all. So that's the game. That's the rule of the game, So if you think about, you could start also thinking about like series. This is a perfect example. Pokemon is a perfect example. So if you played Red, and then eventually they have Ruby, they have a Gold and Platinum, and then they started to give some rare items, like you can only get Yugia by collecting the Platinum, by buying that Platinum cartridge that is so expensive at that time. It broke my wallet as a primary or secondary school student. So that's how you would keep them coming back, collecting things. Now, TRPG is truly long. I would agree with that. Okay, any other question? Whew, that's a lot. Other questions? If not, I will pass back the mic to Michael and Singh.